Thanks so much to the people who worked so hard to put all these questions together. You gave your questions, and then they figured all out how to group them together and everything. It was really quite amazing. So we begin. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Fantastic. Okay. So then we start with, it will be when you turn it on. There you go. To start with, Bishop Carla, just tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, here's my story. I was born and raised and baptized and confirmed in LCC, Missouri Synod. Anyone else? So I was, I love my church. I love my church. My grandparents immigrated from Denmark. They were there, my mom and dad. I had church grandmas and all my brothers, and I loved church. So when I was about 17 in grade 12, I went to see my pastor, who I loved. His wife, this is going to date me, was the secretary at the church, and she was on the Gestetner. Can you smell it? She was on the Gestetner behind him, and he was sitting across the desk. I said, Pastor Pollard, I love the church so much. I want to be a pastor. He looked at me, and then he started laughing. Just laughing, and he goes, you're a girl. And I said, thank you for affirming my gender. What does that have to do with, I just told you I wanted to be a pastor because I love this church. And he goes, Carla, we don't ordain women. What were you thinking? Silly girl. And I remember just sitting there like, oh, never saw that one coming. I didn't know why. So I left the church that day. On the way out of the office, the Gestetner started again because it had stopped at that point. I heard him say, well, you could be a missionary. And I said, so I'm good enough for the people over there and I'm not good enough for the people here. And he said, yeah. So I went off to the University of Saskatchewan. I'm born and raised in Regina. Went off to the University of Saskatchewan in my first year of, I don't know what I'm doing now because I wanted to be a pastor and I can't. Taking classes, and then I saw on the wall of the university a thing that said the Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA, was looking for people to go build water wells in Indonesia. And I thought, you could be a missionary. And I thought, is that what God's up to here? So I should apply and see if I can handle the bugs. So I applied, I got accepted. Boom, I'm off in the jungles of Indonesia, in Jambi, the little island, the island of Sumatra, and living with a Muslim family. And before I went, my good LCC family said, Muslims, be so very, very careful. Like, you take a Bible and garlic and I'm like, so God doesn't like girls or Muslims. Got it. So living in this village, fell in love with the family and the Muslims and the Islam. It's a beautiful, beautiful religion. What we see in the news is one end of terrorism, which Christianity, every religion does. Islam is a beautiful religion. I was so enamored with living in that village and the people there. And then they kept saying, remember at this point I was 20, and I had my 20-year confirmation theology. And the Muslim friends would say, tell us about your God, all three of them. And I'm like, that's a tricky one to understand. So I finished my year in Indonesia, came back to Regina, and I went to see Dr. Roland Miller. He lives up in Nepean now, up outside of Ottawa. He is probably Canada's foremost scholar in Islam. LCC, he was from my church, and he was the dean of Luther College in Regina. And, you know, when you walked in, Carla, 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 you're back from the jungle. What are you going to do now? He said, you have to explain to me how Islam fits into this whole world and God and all of this. We had a lovely conversation, and by the time I left his office, I had signed up for a religious studies degree majoring in Islam. So finished a couple years of Islam and religious studies, and then he calls me into his office, and he said, I haven't seen you in church. I said, nope, I quit. Quit. Sorry, you're not going to see me in church. And he said, Carla, 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 we got to get you back in the church. And I said, not happening. And so he said, okay, here's the deal. You're Danish. Your grandparents came from Denmark. We have an opportunity for you to go to the University of Copenhagen, full scholarship for the year. It's a Lutheran state. You're going to study Lutheranism, right? And I'm like, you're paying? Okay, I'll go. So off I went to Denmark. I decided to live with a family so I could learn Danish, so I could talk to my grandparents in Danish, because they had not taught my mother Danish. So lived with this beautiful little family, and then there for a little bit, and then I said to them one day, I'd like to go to church. And they went, why? I said, I just feel I need to go back to church. Okay. So one Thursday afternoon, we're driving around Vallensbæk, which is a little community, a little village just outside of Copenhagen, and we stop at the church. And we go in, and during the week, it's a 14th century church. During the week, you had to pay like 52 krona to get in, and it's a museum. And they said, here, we brought you to church, have a look. Okay, are you happy now? And I said, is there worship here on Sunday? Could we worship here? And they said, well, why would you want to do that? And I said, I think I feel the need to go to church. Well, we can drop you off. Okay. They dropped me off that Sunday morning. There's probably about 10 Danish women in the pews and me. I'm sitting there. The door opens. In walks a pastor. It's a woman. And I remember thinking, am I in an Anglican church? That's a woman. She's the pastor. This is a Lutheran church. What the heck? I've never seen one. Never. In my life. And I was told they didn't exist. So I'm sitting there through the whole service thinking, I must be in the wrong place. Did I hop into a Methodist church or Presbyterian, or like, where am I? And so at the end of the service, I pretty well, you're a woman. And she's like, mm-hmm. And I said, and you're a pastor? Mm-hmm. Lutheran? Mm-hmm. What the heck? I was told you didn't exist. And she said, Carla, there's a Lutheran church in Canada that just started ordaining women. And I'm like, whoa, okay, woohoo. So went home. This was November. My mom and dad in the little Missouri Synod Church in Regina. My dad phones me, Carla, I know how much you love the church, but your mom and I had a falling out, and we had to move to another church. And we moved down the street to the ELCIC church. And we told them not to transfer you and your brothers, because you're actually adults. You're 21 at this time. But the whole family got transferred, so you're a member of an ELCIC church. So I just thought I'd let you know. And I'm like, okay, God, I see what you're up to here. I said to Dad, well, I'm going to be a pastor. And he said, oh, okay. Okay, well, that's cool, Carla. So I finished my year in Denmark by the next May, flew back to Regina, went to see my new pastors at the ELCIC church, Paul Johnson and Randy Farrow, and I said, I want to be a pastor. And they said, oh, you'll be our first woman, and we'll pay for you. And I'm like, oh, this is really good. Things just happen for, the way they go. So I married Brent, my husband, and I had applied to both seminaries, but I liked the University of Waterloo. It was Waterloo Lutheran at that time. I liked the curriculum better. I liked the social justice aspect of it better. So we decided to move out here. We got married on August 18th. We drove as our honeymoon to here. We stayed at the Knights Inn in Windsor. Don't do it. Red velvet bed, purple shag rug, castles on the wall. Anyway, we made it here. We lived in the married student residence for a few years. And then I remember phoning back to Saskatchewan thinking, am I going to go back there? And there was very few young women in seminary. This is 35 years ago. And so I talked to Bishop Cindy Halmerson, who was the assistant to the bishop in Saskatchewan. And I said, am I ever going to get a call as a young woman? I was 26. And she said, it would be a long shot. And I said, because if I get a call and then I have to be off to have a baby if we want to have a family. And she said, why would they call a woman if they could call a man who wouldn't be off? And I'm like, okay. So now what are you up to? So Brent and I hatched a plan because he was a teacher. He got a job in Mississauga. He was driving to Mentor College, and I was going to seminary. And we thought, what if, he's a teacher, I get pregnant in September, have a baby in May, he could take care of the baby for the summer, I'll go back to school part-time, and then we'll repeat it. So we'll have 2 babies, and then I'll go back to Saskatchewan and say, look, I already have my family, you can call me now. So I went to the St. Jacob's Midwives, and I said, here's my plan. Gonna get pregnant in September. This was in like July. Have a baby in May. And then Brent's gonna take care of the baby. I'll get my class, and then repeat. And she said, oh, sweetie, it just doesn't work that way. And I said, I'm an A-type personality. My first 2 daughters are born in May, 2 years apart, exactly as planned. We went back to Saskatchewan, and I got a call, and my husband stayed home and took care of them. We had a 3rd one, and then we have a 4th one. And then I was a parish pastor in Regina for a lot of years, and then went to the National Church as the in charge of global mission. So traveled a lot to Latin America, in Chile and El Salvador, Argentina, Peru. Then I went to CLWR and spent a lot of time in Palestine. Everyone's asking about the Jerusalem cross in Palestine, and then in Ethiopia, Uganda, Jordan, the Middle East. And then I decided to retire. And a little church phone said, we want you to be our pastor. I said, no. And they said, come on, it would be fun. And so then I was just serving this little church in Regina that was United Lutheran. And they said they have a small town, and I loved going out to the small town. I rode a combine. No, I drove a combine. Had a blast. And then Eastern Synod phoned. I guess I'm getting into another question here now, aren't I? Perhaps. Should I stop or keep on? Somebody phoned and said, you know Bishop Mike? And I said, of course I know Bishop Mike. I was out here for 5 years, and my first year seminary was his last year. And Bishop Mike is retiring. Would you like to put your name forward? And I said, no, I'm retiring. My husband is retiring after 35 years of teaching, and we're going to sail off into the sunset. So thanks anyway. They phoned back, and they said, could we tell you why we think you might be at the right age and stage? Age and stage. Age. And stage of what we might need as a bishop right now. And I said, okay, well, you can tell me, but the answer's still no. Carla, we know that every single call you had, you were the first woman. You usually followed a long-serving man, 20 years, you know? And then you come in, and it's a unique gift to navigate that space. We're going to be in that space. Will you come and help us? And I talked to my husband, and I'm like, and he goes, it's actually what you're really good at. Why wouldn't you say yes and see if this is what the Holy Spirit's going to do? And I'm like, right, I can't preempt that. Okay, yes. And here I am. But right before I did this, my husband and I have both talked a lot about being there to jump in the arena and do something, not just stand on the sidelines and throw rocks at people that you don't like. And he had jumped in the arena, and then I got elected. He got elected as an NDP MLA in Regina on October 28th. And I'm like, okay, we didn't see that one coming. We had talked about I would get elected and he wouldn't. He would get elected and I wouldn't. We both wouldn't get elected and we'd be sailing off into the sunset. We never thought about the 4th possibility that we would both be elected. And we both are elected. So he's working out there. I'm working here. We have coffee and breakfast together every morning on WhatsApp. And we hear about our days. Our jobs are incredibly similar, actually. and we're having fun.
Thank you. Okay.
That's me.
Okay, so during our service on August 17th, we took a couple of minutes and asked people to write down questions that would inform our conversation for tonight. We had so many questions that we had to meet and pore over them. We had some that were similar, so we were able to kind of put some things together. But we did this whole process of organizing, and it was
You guys are amazing.
It was really, really wonderful. And so we have a list of questions. We have volunteers who are going to ask these questions for us. These volunteers come from all 3 of our congregations. And our first question, under the heading, Getting to Know Bishop Carla, our first question is going to be asked by Brooke.
Please tell us about your first year of bishop. What do you enjoy most about your job? What is your greatest challenge? And what is most surprising you've learned, experienced, or done in your first year as bishop?
Thanks, Brooke.
Okay, what a great question. My favorite thing about being a bishop is doing this, just being with people. My very favorite, that's I try to get out every single Sunday to a different congregation somewhere and just listen, get to know people, say hi, lots of people I remember from days gone by. So that is my very favorite thing to do. And the most challenging thing, you know, Bishop Mike said to me, aren't you so afraid of being bishop? And I'm like, no. And he said, I was so afraid. And I said, how old were you? 37. How many years parish ministry did you have? 6. Okay, I have 30 years and I'm a little older than that. And there's nothing that I have encountered that I don't know the answer to or don't have a phone a friend and figured it out. So I think this is the most exciting time to be church. Big things are happening right now, and it's super, super exciting. So that's what I enjoy, going out every Sunday and meeting with congregations. And, you know, we have a big synod. Out to Nova Scotia, up to Sault Ste. Marie. I'm going to Pembroke tomorrow to Grace Rankin. And it's super fun.
Wonderful. Thank you. Our next question is going to be asked by Chloe.
What is one short and one long-term goal you have for your work as bishop, and how can we support you in that?
What a good question. Long-term goal. We right now in the church are in a bit of a reformation. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see what God is up to right now, right here. And my short-term goal is to get around and someone phoned, I went up to the Ottawa Valley, and the night before I left, someone phoned and said, are you going to tell us about stats and that the church is dying and that we have no pastors? Because if that's what you're going to do, don't come. And I said, thank you for your honesty. And no, because I don't actually believe any of that. There were some stats flying around, and I have banned them from being used because they had listed all the congregations and said, this one might die in 5 years. This one might die in 10 years. And I said, whoa, where's God in that? And 2, the context of that is not appropriate. I did some research because I like to go to congregations, and I was at St. Peter's, Cambridge, 190 years. And so I thought, hold it, what? Saskatchewan isn't even that old. 190-year-old congregation here? So I had to go do some research, because when I don't understand something, I will go and do research on it. And I'm thinking, who was here 109? What Lutherans were here 109? Fascinating stories. Fascinating stories of these early, they wrote the bishop, no, it wasn't the bishop, it was called the president, I think, rode around in a stagecoach. We should bring that back, hey? Cinderella coach, you know? But between, get this, between, in this area, between 1947 and 1973, guess what the percentage of increase of church building was? Just take a guess. What was the percentage of the increase of church buildings between 1947 and 1973 in this area? 373. Why? What happened between 1947 and 1973 that we were building Lutheran churches left, right, and center? What was happening? From where? And Denmark, and Sweden, and Latvia, and Finland, and Norway. Did we have a whole bunch of Lutherans coming? Did we build a lot of churches? What age were they? World War II had just ended too. All the soldiers came back. Baby boom. I'm the last year of the baby boom. So is our church right-sizing? Because of this blip. It was a super weird blip in our history. It's not normal. We're going back to what's normal for us to be. But what we got to do is make sure we're telling everyone, inviting everyone to be on this journey of loving God and loving Jesus, right? And we'll do that in a whole bunch of unique and fun ways. But everyone goes, well, the church is dying. We're selling all our churches. No, we're not. Church is not dying. This is God's church. It's not going to die. It's not dying. Yes, we are not selling churches either. If we sell all our churches, in 200 years, we won't have any Lutheran churches. We are repurposing them. And I've just hired Ketcha Britton. I don't know if you've met her. She comes around, and I love her to bits. And like, don't sell your church. That's her first word she will say to you. And then she'll say, what can we do with it? Can we get an anchor tenant? Can we make it into something else? And we're sharing her with the other synods because she's so good. She phones me the other day. I'm going down to Estevan. I need your husband's MLA contact for Energies and Mines. Pretty sure they're going to be mining in Estevan. Don't sell their church. We can repurpose into something. Like, she just is light years ahead of us about what we can do. Do we need a library? She'll go knock on Mr. Mayor's door and say, do you need a library? Do you need an adult resource center for adults who need to come to day programs? Do you need an autism resource center for families who have kids who are autistic? What do you need? Let's make it. Don't sell your church. Let's repurpose them. So this is what I'm saying. This is a super exciting time to be a church. Lutheran.
Katya was in St. Jacob's last week. She's going to be in Conestogo next week.
Well, you'll love her.
And was in Elmira in the summertime, and she is just as dynamic and amazing as you say. I'm going to ask Jane to come up now. So we're moving towards a section about the United in Faith ministry. And so Jane is going to start off. Instead of you answering, we're going to tell you about us.
Super cool.
So maybe, Jane, if you are willing, I would get you to come through here. I'm going to give you this. And after Jane, the next question will be by Sheila. Okay.
Go ahead, Jane. Thank you. You just inspired me so with your vision of the church, and I think it aligns so well with what I'm going to describe of our United in Faith. So, the United in Faith ministry at its core is made up of 3 Lutheran churches, congregations in Woolwich. We have St. James, St. Jacob's, we have St. James, Elmira, and St. Matthew's, Conestogo right here. And we've chosen to work differently together to form a more vibrant community within the Eastern Synod. While much of our membership leans towards the older demographic, and you'll see many out tonight, we also have several younger adult members, and this year we were thrilled to have a confirmation for 5 young people.
Awesome.
And some of them are here today, Carla. And so, you know, we look at their presence and contributions, and it reminds us that our future is actually not behind us, but is actually already among us. Like many of our congregations today, we are learning how to respond to fewer people in worship, a smaller and more tired volunteer base, and financial strain. But rather than standing still, we've chosen to take an intentional step forward. And as you had talked about with Katja, we've engaged with our EDGE redevelopment process. We've developed the UIFM shared ministry. We've held joint and are holding joint worship services, and we've been working together on many projects. And so our efforts reflect, we feel, both courage and discernment as we navigate the change together.
Absolutely.
Our shared ministry is also expressed through many acts of generosity and community care. Our members have given their time and talents through a very active knitters group, which creates prayer shawls, baby caps, mittens. We collect school supplies, we collect food, Christmas gifts for families in need. And very excited to let you know that this summer our CLWR Lake Chad appeal exceeded its goal, and so we've actually raised it even higher.
Woohoo, well done.
Yes.
I'm going there in January.
Excellent, that's great. So while our demographics mean fewer can maybe offer their physical labor in the past, we still see a lot of generosity of resources, and our spirit continues to shine. Alongside with our generosity, we see vibrancy and new expressions of faith for us. It looks like meaningful conversations over our coffee hours about social justice and community needs. It looks like opening our doors to others. In Elmira, St. James, we have the Elmira Theatre, we have Hope Fellowship and other community groups. In our St. Jacob's congregation, they have exercise and dance classes being held in their spaces. And we feel that these partnerships are a sign of openness, connection, and relevance to our wider community.
Absolutely.
So Bishop Carla, who are we? We are three congregations coming together, generous, curious, hopeful. We are rooted in Lutheran tradition and scripture while remaining open to new expressions of faith. We don't always see things the same, but that's normal. And what unites us is our willingness to keep asking questions, to keep trying new things, and to keep moving forward into the future that God has for us.
Perfect. You guys are amazing. That's amazing. Well done.
Listening to that makes me so proud of you. Oh, thank you. Sheila.
Hi. How have other churches navigated challenges like amalgamation, convincing parishioners buildings are not the most important thing, and maintaining a shared sense of purpose? We're seeking empathy, not a blueprint. What advice would you give us as we look at ways to worship and do mission projects together as a new experience of Lutheranism in Woolwich?
Yep.
Thanks, Sheila.
So one of the ways the Synod office is starting to work now is we have 5 of us that are working together in a wraparound support for congregations. So many of you know Adam, Pastor Adam. So he's the first one out when we hear a pastor is retiring or something, and he will go look at these models of ministry. South Shore, Nova Scotia. We have, in Nova Scotia, I swear, you throw a dime, you hit 4 churches. I swear. And so there was 20 of them in this area. 10 of them decided, like, we're going to close our churches because, like, we have 6 people. We have, like, 8. We have 10. Like, we can't even get a council together. What are we going to do? And so they went, Adam sat with them and said, come on, come up with something. 10 of them called 2 pastors. And they had quite a few gently retired pastors who were like, please don't make me do another interim in one of these churches again, right? 2 full-time pastors serving 10 congregations, this web of retired pastors who are around, and then they would go to what's your passion? You want to do the nursing home services? Done. You want to do the Lenten services or the Bible studies? Done. They have made something super unique, and if you look at it like a spider web, so 2 full-time pastors, they're all serving this, and they have just come alive. It is just fascinating to watch. So now Adam is off to the Ottawa Valley to do the same thing, and to Montreal. Say the same thing. Okay, what are we going to do? Yep, maybe you don't have enough people in one church, but you got these amazing assets. You have amazing people. You have amazing love and faith to share. What are you going to do? Come on, come up with something. And all of these models are popping up. And it's just like, oh, never thought of that one. And you guys are doing it. This is the reformation that's happening. And and sometimes there's Anglicans, sometimes there's United, sometimes there's Muslim mosque next door. Let's get involved. You guys can work together. Muslims are beautiful. Or a Jewish synagogue, right? Who's outside your door? Go be friends and say, how can we help this community? You know, when I think of Jesus, I have a later degree I did in grief counseling after the pandemic. And I remember I had to write intensive papers over, the university doesn't care about our Christian calendars. And Good Friday, Easter Sunday, I had to write all these papers while I was writing sermons for Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So they got a little confused. However, I remember thinking that when Jesus was the most brilliant grief counselor, remember the stories when he had died and his friends were absolutely traumatized by that, grieving, unable to think, unable to understand what happened, and then they had gathered together, and then he shows up. What does he say to them? Do you remember? Be troubled. Do not be afraid, and peace be with you. And so this little group of people, probably 12 men, probably 25 women, right? Probably what it was. Don't be afraid. 19 men and 21. Oh, 19 women and 12 men. Got it. Okay. Good ratio there. Don't be afraid. Peace be with you. And now go out and tell about God's love. They didn't have a church. And if they hadn't done that, they were terrified. They had just seen their friend die in a really, really awful way. They didn't quite understand their mission, but he said, don't be afraid. My peace will be with you. Now get out there and tell about God's love. It's not about the building. Tell about God's love. If they hadn't done that, we would not be sitting here today, right? Christianity spread from this little dot in the Middle East all around, and here we are sitting here because of that. So I think the same words are the same. Don't be afraid. Experiment. Pastor Adam has mission money. He wants to give it all to you. Experiment. Do something. And if it doesn't work out the way you think it's going to work out, good. You just learned something. We're giving you money to spend. And then Christy's going to come back in this model and say, what kind of pastors do you need for whatever models you're coming up with? Catherine Gom, Pastor Catherine, is just starting on Monday. She's going to be working on Lay Ministry Academy, hopefully with Martin Luther College, University College. That, okay, you have 2 pastors for 10 churches. You've got these great pastors that meet what you need. What do the lay people need? What do you need? What do you need? How can we train you? Funerals, worship, community outreach, grief support groups. What do you need? Come up with it. And we will find that, and we will get it to you. What do you need? And then Ketcha will come in and say, you got a building? Don't sell it. Let's look at it, right? So I think this model is going to be super fun.
Wonderful. Thank you. Our next question is, Janet is going to read it. I will say, we're running a little bit behind, so we're going to have to...
I have to talk.
I'm going to start playing Emmy music for you when you go over your...
Okay.
Okay. If a congregation cannot maintain the minimum number of council members or a financial administrator, what other options can be pursued to prevent loss of charitable status and to continue to operate the business side of the church?
This is a short question. Change your constitution.
Thanks.
Article 7. Change your constitution. Get it. Everyone's doing this. You know, there's a blank number. We will have this many council people. Change it. Send it in to us. It will go to Senate Council, and you'll have a new constitution number. And Charitas and GSI, there's a whole bunch of places who are right now poised to take over payroll, accounting. They want to help you. So that's a short one.
Thank you. Well done. Okay. Our next question here is going to be read by Sandra Rohr.
Actually, I think you've answered part of this already, maybe all of it. What is Synod's role in determining what happens to assets, land, buildings when churches close or amalgamate?
We have no role. We just want to support you. The building's yours. It's not ours. We want to support you in, first of all, keeping it. So we don't want you to sell it, and we don't expect you to give the money to us. That's not happening. I know that you just want our money. No, we don't, actually. We want you to keep the building. We want to support you in any way we can. So my question is, how can the Synod support you? What do you need? Call me. Tell me. We will do it. We'll help you.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving into broader church.
I'm going fast, Joanne.
Well done. I have not had to start singing. So I think perhaps we've covered some of these things too, but we'll keep going. So this is Dawn is going to read this.
Evangelical is now commonly used to refer to the religious right. What discussion is there around setting ourselves apart from the religious right by removing the word evangelical from our name as the ELCIC?
Great question, and I hate that it got hijacked because the original term is good and pure and everything we need, right? So the National Church is doing some restructuring. They will be coming and consulting with all of you. This is a national question. Eastern Synod can't do this, but here's my challenge to you. Anytime you say, well, what church do you go to? You say, I go to the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Canada here, and let me tell you what evangelical means. Reframe it. Start telling, it doesn't mean we are right-wing Christian nationalists. That's not who we are. We're progressive. We love all. We welcome all. reframe it, start reframing it. And then we'll see what happens at the National Church restructuring that's coming.
You're rocking it now, Bishop. This next question. That's right. We're going to have time for more dessert. Rose will ask our next question.
Spirituality is becoming more individualized, and Western society is moving towards spiritual but not religious, and moving away from organized religion, sometimes with negative views of faith and Christianity. What has society lost and gained in this change? And how do we help people with a negative view of church understand it can be a loving place for all, recognizing it hasn't always been welcoming to everyone?
So, just love everybody.
That's it?
Okay, so here's I love stories, right? I'll tell you a story. I have to ride to the Toronto airport quite often because I have to catch a flight, right? So I'm going to write a book about the taxi driver's eyes in the rearview mirror, because that's all I see, right? I just see these eyes. And they're usually people who are relative newcomers to Canada, and it's just fascinating to chitty-chat. I'm a chitty-chatter person, right? You picked that up? So this one night, I was super tired. It was probably about 9:30. And I get in the cab, and I see these eyes in the rearview mirror. Hello, miss, where are you going? Where are you from? And I what do you do? And I'm I work in the church. And then, what kind of church do you work in? Evangelical Lutheran Church, which is a progressive church of love. Oh, do you believe in men should dominate women? No, nope. Nope. Do you believe in, same-sex stuff? Yep. And I kept seeing these eyes kind of going, do you believe in this? And he goes, well, why would you believe in that? And so I kept talking to him about, I believe in love. I believe God is love. I believe we love everyone. I think it's about love and not judgment. And it's love, love, love. And then I could see his eyes, and I thought at one point he was going to pull over on the 401 and put me out. Right? And I was tired, and I actually was trying to not have this conversation. And then he said something, well, what do you mean your church is about love? And I said, we take care of people. We take care of refugees. We try to be out in the street. We try to love everyone. We try to uphold everyone. We try to be there for everyone. That's who we are as followers of Jesus. That's what Jesus did. He talked to the tax collectors and the prostitutes and the Samaritans and the women, and that's who we are. Did you say you do something with refugees? And I said, yes, we do. We help support refugees. Could you help me? I have a sister. I said, yes, actually we could. And then the eyes changed in the rearview mirror. And he said, why would you do that? You don't even know me. I said, because I will love you, because my God says I should love you, and I should love your sister, and I should help you. But why would you do that? I said, because my God, the Jesus I follow, says we need to love everyone, and I believe we have to do that. You would help me. Yep. And I gave him Jen Arden's address at CLWR here in Waterloo. I said, you call her and you see if there's any way we can help you get your sister here. And when we got to my apartment, I have an apartment down in Kitchener, he came out and he shook my hand and he bowed and he said, thank you so much. This is what we're called to do, to not get angry, not get judgmental with them, but to talk and keep talking love. Love. And sometimes I drive to work every morning, and some people in their cars do really... And so I've started doing something with my fingers. You bless them, and they look back at you, because, someone will drive by and... You bless them. Try it. Let's try it. We're going to get on the news. The news, like, something's happening in Kitchener, Waterloo, Conestogo. People are blessing each other when they go by, when they should have been, not doing that kind of bless them. Love, love, love. Show love, be out there and just be love. It's going to change who you are, and it's going to change our world. Okay, see, that was the love part.
Wouldn't it be great if we were driving and all of a sudden people were like, oh, the Lutherans again, right?
They're just out there loving everyone when I want to curse them because they cut me off.
Wonderful. Our next question is going to be asked by Yvonne.
What changes do you expect to see in the Lutheran Church and Eastern Synod in the future? How will these be challenges and or opportunities? What would success look like?
Do you know what's happening? People are moving to small towns, and small town churches are starting to come alive again. So, this church I was at, Lutheran United Church. In the United Church, the process is affirming. In the Lutheran Church, it's reconciled in Christ. When you go through the studies for a year or two or however long to be sure, you understand how to support 2S LGBT people. So they said, would you just finish the process up? We're fairly along the way. We finished it up. We put in everything. We wrote a welcoming policy. And then they said, would you, we need to be visible. You have to put a visible sign, like you have a little sign out front on your church. So they decided to buy a garden bench. And my husband was teaching still just down the street at the high school. And I have done a lot of work in high schools with GSAs, Gay Straight Alliances, helping teachers and understand how to support kids. So I phoned up the school and I said, hey, can your Rainbow Club come and decorate this bench? Because we just became an RIC congregation, we should have it decorated. They came down, it got on the CBC News that they did all this painting and that the high school came down to the church, like what a good partnership, right? Paid attention to the lovely kids down the street. And in Saskatchewan, it was that summer when Bill 137 dropped, where trans kids were no longer safe to be out or to use their preferred names or pronouns in schools. Those kids came back to me and said, if we're not safe in our school, could we use your church? And so I go to my council and I said, council members, the answer is yes. The question is, the kids down the street want to use, we had a big gym like this, want to use the gym on Friday nights. And the answer is yes, right? And they're like, we have kids coming to use our church? Yeah. They came and used it. They came back and said, on Monday night, can we play Dungeons and Dragons in the little boardroom? Because Dungeons and Dragons is just a hit, especially in the trans community, right? So I go back to my council. The kids want to play Dungeons and Dragons on Monday night. The answer is yes, right? Yeah. First, I had to explain what Dungeons and Dragons was to the council. Fair enough. So I have run a trans support group for parents forever. So that spring, the Queen City Pride said, could we have the Pride prom in this space? I go back to the council. They're going to have the prom here. And they're like, okay, well, this is fun. How many kids? And I'm like, I don't know, how many kids are we going to have? So I meet with all the kids and I say, okay, let's have this prom. And then some of them don't have families that are supportive. So then I say, community, we need your dresses, we need your tuxes, we need everything. And you should see what came. And the most fun things is some of you of an older vintage might have your bridesmaid dresses from 60 years ago in your downstairs in your cedar chest. They pulled them out. Oh, hit. And some of the tuxes from like the 70s and stuff hit. So we had all of these clothes. We ended up thinking we were going to have 150 kids who had not gone to their high school proms because they did not feel welcome or they didn't feel like they could go. So we had the clothes. The good church ladies come to me, Carla, we have all these kids coming for the prom. Did you ask them what they wanted to eat? I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. Well, let me go back. Kids, what are we going to have for your prom meal? And then they said, well, the ones that were a little older, well, we never went to the prom, so we don't know what you eat at a prom. The younger ones who were just graduating said, well, we haven't been to the prom, so what do you eat at prom? Well, you're the only one that's been to a grad, so what did you eat at your grad? And I think, oh, chicken? And they said, could we just have hot dogs? And I'm like, hot dogs? Yep. If you want hot dogs, you can have hot dogs. And then one of them said, well, we should probably have vegetables on the side because that's what our mums would like. So I go back to the kitchen ladies. They want hot dogs. What? Carla, hot dogs? And I said, well, put chili on the side. They're like chili hot dogs. And they want this. And so the kids came back and they came up with their theme that it was going to be mushrooms, 2 mushrooms. And it's called Queer Connections. And this was going to be the prom theme. we have a Globe Theatre in Regina, and the woman who is the theater production person works in the church. She got wind of this. You want mushrooms, underground mushrooms, like looking like an underground mushroom place for the Pride prom? You should have seen the place. It was like you were underground with vines and lights and everything. And then the kitchen women made 300 cupcakes with little mushrooms on the top. And then a local designer, Dean Renwick, look him up, came and said, you're going to need those clothes altered for the kids, right? And I'm like, yes, we are. So we had this night with Dean Renwick, and then a bunch of the women brought their sewing machines. And I said, kids, pick out what you want to wear, try it on, go see Dean, he'll tailor it, they'll sew it, and then you have your outfit to go home. So this was the most profound night for me because there were some kids, trans kids, and my husband came with me. He knew some of the kids from the high school, the kids who got picked on, the kids who usually sat in the corner waiting for someone to bug them. And I said, would you like to pick out something to wear? I would like to wear a blue dress. I said, okay, let's go look. I have them in color-coded, so here's all the blue ones. They picked out a blue dress. Can I try it on? Yep. Where can I try it on? Would you like to try it on in my office? Because I didn't shut the door. I'll stand outside the door. Okay. Should I take my t-shirt off or leave it on? Whatever you're comfortable doing. Okay. Tried on the blue dress. Came out. Every single under kid there stopped, looked, and said, look at how beautiful you look. Some of these kids had never heard that. So I said, let's go see Dean, and how you want it to fit, Dean will make it fit. Dean did his magic. To my horror, he takes out his, and he's like cutting them off. And I'm like, you're just gonna cut them off? He goes, it's what we do, Carla. I'm like, but I felt like he was bibbidi bobbidi boo. He would take them not fitting really well and suddenly clip, 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 sew this, sew that. It was just like a fascinating night. So then one of the kids came to me, who's kind of the leader, and said, we're calling this thing, and I said, so why mushrooms? And he said, Carla, don't you know about mushrooms? And I'm like, clearly not. Mushrooms have mycelium. And I said, who? Mycelium. I said, I don't understand, Maxwell, I don't understand what mycelium is in mushrooms. He said, Carla, this mushroom and this mushroom, they're growing together, they're connected underground. And if this one falls behind, this one's going to pick it up by underground and make sure it grows. That's what we do. That's what you do for us. You're helping us grow. And that's what that whole community did. And you know, I was shocked when I was elected bishop and I had to leave this little community. But every single Sunday after that prom, and if you Google it you'll see it was very well in the news. Every single Sunday, the kids started showing up in church, bringing their parents. And every single Sunday, more and more came. And on my last Sunday, they were all there. So when we learn how to love, not judge, love, and open our churches, things change. And that's what Jesus taught us how to do, a reformation of love. And that's what we need. That was a long one, sorry.
We had almost caught up, and now. But the story was lovely, so I'll allow it. Lisa.
With many churches closing or amalgamating with Lutheranism, survive, and what does it mean to be a Lutheran in this changing world? What are the characteristics of a live, emerging Lutheran faith community?
Love. You want to follow up with that? Say grace, right? Grace? Undeserved love. People don't think they should be loved, and you love them. That's grace. So, grace and love. Are we caught up again?
Not quite, but it's okay. We're all right. We're going to be fine. All right, we have made it to the portion of the evening called Fun Questions. Well, you have to read it in a fun way then. This is Dave.
Yes, I'm Dave, and my favorite ice cream is minty chocolate chip. What is your favorite ice cream?
Black licorice.
Actually, that wasn't the question. I said the question wasn't very fun. But anyway, what event in your life seemed like a mistake at the time, but you later realized was exactly what was needed to happen, and it was part of God's plan?
Becoming bishop.
Excellent.
It wasn't a mistake. My whole story is, I don't know about this. And then I feel God going, and away I go. And that's what we're called to do, right? Feel God go, and then do it, even if you're afraid. And see what happens.
Wonderful. Next is Liz, who has a lovely collection of questions.
I do. All right. My questions to you are, what book are you currently reading? What hobby or activity do you do for fun? And what do you do to recenter yourself? But most important, my table wanted me to ask, what preference do you have for communion wine?
Bubbly. Get a little champagne happening there. Books. I read a lot. I have a lot of areas. Can you pass me my phone? I actually knew this question, so I took a picture of the 4 books I'm currently reading. They are, in no specific order. One book I read, I picked it up somewhere, and I just thought, this is the most fascinating book I've read. It's called Think Again by Adam Grant. Read it. It's just, I couldn't read more than 1 chapter before putting it down and thinking, because he questions how we think. Why do you think that way? Like, I don't know, where did that idea in your brain come from? And who are the people that we can say, I'm going to challenge your idea? And some people go, oh, thanks. Let me think about that. Other people go, no, you're wrong. No, I'm not. I might be right. No, you're wrong. Like, it's just the most fascinating book about thinking. So Adam Grant, Think Again. What She Said is written by a female journalist in Toronto about women in politics and women in leadership, that it's really hard. People come after us a lot. And I just thought that was a fascinating book. I read it. My husband in the caucus in Regina, he has a lot of young women. And my husband doesn't like to read. So I read a book and then I give him synopsises. And I send him quotes. And I'm like, you got a lot of young women, you better support them and be different. The way you're talking about, he's good. I have 3 daughters and a son, but I just said, watch out for them because it's hard. Renegade Grief is a new grief support book, and I always like to read about grief and keep up on grief counseling and how we deal with grief and don't deal with grief in our society. And then Christ-like Acceptance Across Deep Differences. That's my newest one. And for fun, I also read for fun, is the Thursday Murder Club. And it's out have you seen the movie? The book was amazing, and the movie was, just watch that movie. So fun. I'm going to watch it again. So that's what I'm reading.
And the last part was, what do you do to recenter yourself?
When I went on sabbatical, in one of my congregations, I took the mindfulness-based stress reduction course. It's an 8-week course, which says to us that our brains like to go to fight or flight real quick, and we can learn to override that. But it's just like if I got some of you to try, I play rugby. If I taught some of you how to play rugby real quick, you might need a little practice to get good at it. You have to get good at practicing mindfulness-based stress reduction, which means in any place you can be in the middle of the worst war or the most stress, you can just have a complete calm. And you can be in a really serene situation and you can be off stressing, right? So I think for me, being centered is every morning practicing mindfulness-based stress reduction, which I usually read along with some meditation with Oscar Romero or the Bible or something that's just really, here we go today. And there's nothing anyone can do that can set me off, right? Because if you're centered in where you are and who you are, and I always believe God is with me, and I will always be okay. I might not like what's happening. I might not like the situation, but God will always be with me. And I bring that with me every day, and every day I start my day that way.
Thank you. And Robin, this is our last formal question.
You've mentioned a lot of places that you have traveled. What is the best vacation you've ever been on?
Somebody else asked me this, what's the best place you visited? I remember one morning I was in Ethiopia in Lalibela, and it was dark when we went into the room. And like, you go into a hotel, but you have your own room down the side of a mountain. Like, you go into your own little building. So I was in my little building, and it was dark, went to bed, got up in the morning, and I knew that the staff would come down and put coffee out on the veranda. And I remember opening the door to go out and have coffee, and it was overlooking this valley, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the world. And I remember just standing there going, oh, like in the pink, the sun, and it was just the most beautiful. And then I got to sit there and drink coffee. That was fun. Was it the most relaxing holiday or the most? Well, with my kids. I have 4 kids. My oldest daughter lives in Regina. She's a journalist. She's working as the chief communication strategist for the RCMP in Regina, the federal RCMP. My second daughter has her master's in criminology from UBC. She did a big paper on the correlation between the foster care system and the penal system. So she's working in the foster care system, trying to really shut it down, I guess. Keep kids with their families and encourage that instead, especially in Saskatchewan, in Indigenous kids, because this is a residential school happening all over in a different way. My third one is a lawyer. He's just going to be called to the bar on December 5th in Edmonton. And my little daughter, my youngest daughter, is a teacher also in Edmonton. And when I get to be with them and my husband, that's the best. No.
Indeed. All right, so that is the end of our formal questions. And we still managed to be on time, so I feel like we get a high five for that. We pulled it off. If we can do this, we can do anything.
Yes, we can. But remember, I had a question for you. Ooh. What can the Synod do to help you?
Can we come back to you?
No, you must answer right now, or it runs out.
Because you're going to get like 50 emails.
I will throw in 2 free shimbos or whatever they are if you answer right now. Yes, of course, you can get back to me.
Wonderful.
Anytime.
Okay. I think that we should thank the folks. We had 2 separate committees that helped put tonight together.
You guys are amazing.
So one group of folks who dealt with all the food and set up everything, and so and then the other committee who worked really hard on all of this and making sure that I helped us to stay on time, which at one point it wasn't looking good, but clearly we found our way. And so can we thank all of the folks who helped tonight? What a delight. It's amazing to see the energy that happens when something is happening that you're excited about and looking forward to. We do have the energy, and we can. So we just have to find the things that inspire us. So thank you. And thank you to you, Bishop Carla, for coming and being with us, for eating with us, for sharing wisdom with us. And I'm going to invite Helen up for a moment.
Bishop Carla, on behalf of the United Faith Ministry, I would like to present this prayer shawl to you. It was knit by one of our knitters. And I'm going to say a little prayer as I present it to her. So if you would bow your heads in prayer, please. May God's grace be upon this shawl. warming, comforting, enfolding, and embracing. May this mantle be a safe haven, a sacred place of security and well-being, sustaining and embracing in good times as well as in difficult ones. May this shawl be cradled in hope, kept in joy, graced with peace, and wrapped in love. Amen.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have asked, as we go, we have asked if Bishop Carla would bless us on our way.
Yes, I would. All right, here's my blessing for you. Go. Go and. Go and be. Go and be the church and love. Love everyone. Now go. Amen.
So yes, you can go. Bishop Carla said it so. Remember to take your dishes with you, and safe travels, and peace be with you, and we will see you on Sunday. Good night. Thank you for coming.